we're back for the start of the second game of this doubleheader between the Royals of Eastern Mennonite and your Knights of Southern Virginia. That was just the first pitch right there. I was starting things off with Young up to bat, and pitching for Southern Virginia in the second game is Ari Hall. We had both Persinger as well. Persinger started off last game for Southern Virginia pitching. And then you had Malia Davis close things out. But again, starting off as Ari Hall pitching. And once again, I'm Dawson Weidrich, joined by Quinn Meyer. We were able to cover that first game between the Royals and the Knights, where the Royals came away winning 5-0. And that's going to be a foul ball off the left side. But Quinn, you and I were talking between games that Southern Virginia, they kind of played a better final 3 innings compared to Eastern Mennonite as far as like getting some scoring opportunities, not quite able to capitalize, but like we had talked about time and time again, able to establish some kind of momentum to hopefully carry over into the second game.
They did. You know, they obviously had a really slow start, and even in the last 3 innings, 5, 6, and 7, for Southern Virginia, they'd probably say that still wasn't as well as they could have played. Obviously, a 0 up on the board last game, but they certainly did play better. I think they did play better, defensively and offensively than Eastern Mennonite. Tough handle there.
And not able to get to first base in time. That was Katie Clater trying to recover that one. And so it'll be a single there for Young, and we'll have Jones up to bat for the Royals.
And of course, letting off that first hit from Ari Hall, but playing your strong pitcher here to start the second game, that bodes pretty well as well for Southern Virginia. But they did have a good ending there from Malia Davis, really promising few innings pitched by her in relief of Persinger.
And a bunt here. They're going to go to first for the out. And nearly able to tag Young out at second, but she'll be safe. So there's 2 outs there here in the top of the first.
And also a couple of changes in the batting order for Southern Virginia here. They're going to have, I think it's Abby Southern batting second.
That's going to be popped up into the outfield. And you have there Nelson able to bring it down. Actually, that makes it 2 outs. But again, the Knights able to make some solid plays there in the outfield. And this is Chiswick up to bat, who did a really great job pitching for the Royals in that first game, not allowing a single run to be scored, making things just really incredibly difficult for the batters of Southern Virginia, which, Quinn, you and I talked about between games as well. Southern Virginia really struggling to get any sort of contact whatsoever, being very limited, to say the least.
She did, and she found that sweet spot on the outside, as we talked about Dawson, in between games, and was really able to get Southern Virginia leaning quite a bit and force them into swings maybe they wouldn't typically take, but had to, because she was just finding that outside edge of the strike zone last game.
And I believe he said there was only 4 Knights that were able to get a hit in that first game, which we talked about. That's not going to cut it in the second game against Eastern Mennonite.
Yeah, and even those hits that they did have, Katie Clater, the one hit she delivered on is there's a nice strike there from Ari Hall. The one hit that Katie Clater had, was just kind of into the dirt, and she was fortunate to get to first base. So they definitely want to see more, be more productive offensively, and they got a chance to get off to the right foot, as there was a good inning pitch by Ari Hall.
Indeed, able to come out of the top of the first without letting up a run. In comparison to the first game, where there was an early 1-run lead for the Royals, the Knights now have a little bit of room to work, not facing a deficit this time, really allow yourselves to kind of swing away. You got Kel Jones up to bat, followed by Southern, who came in a little bit in that first game. And Chiswick will start off pitching for the Royals once again. She's performed well so far. Might as well continue that trend for as long as she can today.
And she's now pitched, I think, 21 of the 28 innings that the Royals have played so far. So don't be surprised to, see her pitching that percentage of innings throughout the entire season, maybe even more as they get into conference play. But we'll see what she does here in the second game.
Absolutely, she's done a great job so far this year, and I can only expect to see that continue as the year progresses. Here's Jones up to bat.
think DeKel was able to get on base in her second attempt in the first game. So she'll look to pick up where she left off and hopefully more.
And the Knights, of course, hoping to make their way through their batting lineup more times than they did in that first game. I believe only about maybe 3 times at most. Hit into left field. An easy catch that time for Umberger. Now in this game, playing in left field. Let's now move on to Southern.
And Chiswick really able to do a good job and just float those things in there. Southern Virginia getting too far under it, pretty often, especially early in the first game. We saw a lot of flyouts, just as we saw DeKel Jones there.
And Abby Southern, she's kind of taking the run forward approach, trying to get some power behind it. Makes a little contact. This will be a foul ball down the third base line. Makes it an 0-2 count with 1 out.
But to your point, Dawson, that the Knights weren't able to get even 3 full times through their batting order if there's another one swung on. But they weren't able to get to Ari Hall, who is their best returning producer offensively for Southern Virginia, coming back from last year. They didn't even get to her for a 3rd time, so that's definitely one thing they want to improve on, especially early season. You want to get people as many at bats as possible for them to get comfortable.
Right, absolutely. 0-2 count here. Another foul ball. And that's been a thing today, that the Knights, even though they weren't able to get any runs scored in the first game, they did do a great job at least making some contact, battling with Chiswick. A lot of them, of course, resulted in foul balls, but again, making that contact in of itself, even though statistically it doesn't really do anything for you except for get the first 2 strikes, it's still, just kind of establishes, like, I can make contact with these pitches.
Well, and you got to think as well that at some point here, Chiswick's going to become fatigued, right?
Right.
And, you'll start to see that in her pitches, and maybe it gives opportunity to swing big from Southern Virginia. Of course, Eastern Mennonite might try to get Chiswick out of there before that happens, but.
And another foul ball there. Keeps the count at 2-2.
Chiswick also already up to 5 at-bats in both games combined. Obviously getting struck out just now in the top of the first.
And a quick easy out to first as a second out of the bottom of the first inning. I mean, overall, we've seen some pretty good infield play from Eastern Mennonite and both squads, aside from a couple of errors, but both defenses doing just a solid job overall. So now we'll have Katie Clater up to bat. Little low swing there and a foul ball. Katie Clater not quite having the success that she would have hoped to have in that first game, considering the success she had all of last year. But I guess another thing on the flip side that we have yet to address the fact that, we talked about going into the first game that these are 2 teams that had yet to get the first win of the year. Eastern Mennonite able to do so in that first game. And so we'll see how they're able to build on that momentum as the game goes on. And for Southern Virginia, you continue on. You're now 0-4 in the year and just trying to come out of the back half of this doubleheader with some momentum.
And it's not an easy non-conference schedule that Southern Virginia has.
Right.
They've got a few doubleheaders with ODAC teams to start things off, and as we've mentioned already, the ODAC is really just stacked with softball programs that are very quality. So this will be a very good learning experience for their younger players and allow their core players, returning players, to really develop into good leaders as they kind of have this little homestand against a couple of ODAC programs.
And that pitch makes it a 2-2 count. And, you talk about the ODAC being a tough conference and also a very familiar one, as many programs at Southern Virginia have been a part of the ODAC in some form or fashion at some point in their history. And so, again, a lot of history there, a lot of just very familiar with each other. And so, and again, like you said, tough out-of-conference schedule, and that's going to be brought down by number 2. That is Edens, excuse me. And so that'll be out number 3. So the first inning goes by without any runs scored. We'll go to the top of the second with Eastern Mennonite up to bat. And want to remind you, you're watching this on Knights Broadcasting here on YouTube. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe, comment down below. What was your favorite highlight of the first game, and what things are you looking forward to in this second game? And be sure to let us know how we can improve this viewing presentation of Southern Virginia athletics. We appreciate your feedback, and we appreciate your support of Knights Broadcasting.
Well, we mentioned that it was, pretty stellar defensive play by both teams to end game number 1. Pretty much picture perfect in the outfield. A couple of infield errors, but nothing that was too costly for either team. So, we might see a defensive battle here early in game 2.
And it could very well end up being a much quicker game than the previous game was, even though, we're talking to the first game, felt like it flew by to an extent. So could very well see that here. And now up to bat for the Royals is Adkins.
But looking through the Knights' schedule, specifically the non-conference schedule, they're hosting Guilford on Saturday, then Maryville next week here in Buena Vista, so a nice little homestand before facing off against another ODAC squad, Randolph, and then they have a nice slew of games during the spring where they're going to make the trip to Florida, face teams like Plattsburgh State and then Washington and Jefferson College, so a really nice trip over for spring break there for the ladies.
I love the view here in Buena Vista, but sometimes it get a little rainy here, and so going down to Florida,
can't complain.
Nice change of pace, to say the least. Low pitch there from Hall. Make it ball 1 against Adkins.
Yeah, early March, even throughout March, honestly, kind of get teased the weather here. Might have a day like today where, it's 65, 70 degrees and feels pretty hot outside to play softball or baseball, but then you'll have days where it gets back down to freezing temperatures.
Absolutely, and so that is another ball there. I believe making a 2-0 count.
But again, going back to the pitching situation for the Knights, it's much different spot than last year. Obviously, having the 2 main pitchers of Kemp and Hall. It'll be interesting to see how much they use Ari Hall throughout the season in these double headers. If they'll kind of stick to having her start in the second game typically, or because I think she typically was the starter in their first game of their double headers, then typically came back with Crystal Camp in the second one.
Right.
Unless one came in relief of the other. So it'll be interesting to see how Coach Pendleton uses Ari Hall. Obviously will be a very valuable piece defensively for the Knights this year. Pop up there.
And brought down by DeKel Jones for out number 1. But to your point, Ari Hall now being the more experienced of the pitchers for Southern Virginia's roster, and Crystal Kemp had a little bit more experience than her last season as she was a senior, and so again, kind of relying on the experience in the back half of these doubleheaders to try to close things out. Definitely is a pattern we've seen from Southern Virginia so far. Right now, we have Orndorff up to bat. That first pitch is a ball, make it a 1-0 count. A swing to the outfield there. Good quick recovery for Southern Virginia, allowing it to only be a single for Orndorff. That was good work by Lloyd to not let it get past her. So now with 1 out, you got a runner on first for the Royals.
Yeah, Orndorff, she's been dangerous. She homered, last game, able to bring home a runner as well, so she's been reading pitches really nicely.
Yeah, both Orndorff and Jones able to knock out of the park last go around. So like you said, definitely people you have to keep an eye out for if you're Southern Virginia. That pitch a little high from Hall.
And you got to think the Knights want to keep Aria Hall in here as long as possible, hopefully throughout the entirety of the second game. So really don't want to lengthen these innings, want to get done in short order.
As we head out or into the infield, it was a really short hit. It looked like it came off with a lot more power than that. It made it really awkward for them to get to it. So now you have runners on first and second with Fravel now up to bat. So just like that, Eastern Mennonite now in prime scoring position with only one out and a lot of room to work with. That one right down the middle. Beautiful pitch from Hall. That one just a little bit high, so make it a 1-1 count. Beautiful inside pitch there from Hall. They're going to call that a little high, I think. I don't know about that one. That was an interesting call there. Again, we don't have the exact angle that the umpire does. But looked like it was just enough inside to be in that strike zone. Hall looking to cut her off at third, and she does. Good decision there from Hall.
Yeah, ultimately a good decision. Took her a second to think about it, since there's so many runners advancing there, but a good decision to go to third and cut off that runner in scoring position.
So still have runners on first and second. We have Umberger up to bat. And it's Fravel and Orndorff who are on base for the Royals. But like I said, she did hesitate slightly, and it could have possibly cost the team if she had hesitated even a split second more, because that would have allowed for there to be bases loaded with only one out. I mean, it is Edens up to bat, so we'll see what she is able to do with runners on base. We did not see her bat at all in the previous game, so let's see how she performs against Hall here. Pitch a little low to the inside from Hall.
Yeah, Edens still looking for her first hit on the year. She's had 4 at-bats so far. Appeared in all 3 games for the Royals. I think a good presence on the outfield for them.
Low pitch there. We'll see an advance to third and second. As Christensen not able to corral it in front of her. It did take an awkward bounce as it crossed home plate.
Yeah, we saw the Knights get into a bit of a jam like this early in the first game, able to claw their way out of it. Let's see if they can do the same.
With a 3-0 count now. That one right down the middle.
And in a game, where, Chiswick's just dialed in the circle for the Royals, it's a game that runs are hard to come by, so you do not certainly want to get yourself into a big deficit early on.
That's going to be popped up. And it's going to be caught out by 21. That is Persinger able to get the job done and close out the top of the second. And we'll move on to the bottom of the second. Still scoreless between the Royals and Knights here in this second game. And just like you had mentioned with the previous game, Quinn, the Knights they were in a tough situation. They had runners on base and they were threatening to score. But at the end of the day, able to take care of business and, get the third out that they needed. And we'll see Chiswick in the circle once again. Look to see her continue her fantastic day of pitching that she has had. And she's been calm and collected the entire time. Nothing really has seemed to rattle her. We'll see Persinger up to bat for Southern Virginia. You got Bedell on deck and Christensen in the hole.
Now batting number 21, Chloe Persinger.
Nice bunt there. Beautiful bunt. It's going to be a single for Persinger.
Yeah, very nicely done. We saw a couple of those in the first game. Executed pretty nicely, and a couple that were pretty close right along the foul line. So good job by Persinger to get on base and get something started early for Southern Virginia. They need it badly.
So now Persinger at first and Bedell up to bat here. And trying to hold back on that swing. It's going to be a foul ball there. Another bunt. That's going to be a foul ball. So the Knights starting to see that they did a couple bunts in the first game. Not a ton, but they're seeing that that's been a little bit effective, and it's kind of rattling the infield a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose they see that, they had success when, in the infield, the Royals made a couple of errors. But then, Chiswick's been really tough to read, which might be why they're opting to bunt as well.
A foul ball near the Royal dugout. That's caught out by Hensley.
And when they do make contact, they're getting too far under it, so it's creating lots of pop flies, and they're easy outs for Eastern Mennonite. So not a bad idea to go with those bunts, since, Chiswick really has them reaching and second-guessing themselves, which is why you'll see a lot of check swings, and a lot of batters make contact unintentionally, which result in foul balls.
Indeed. Now with one out here, and you still got Persinger at first. And this is Christensen swinging. Another foul ball.
And you can tell, they're trying to let it rip. They're swinging full force, but, Chiswick's really just done a good job of able to adjust between pitches. And while it seems like she might be predictable with that outside pitch, it really has not. It's been anything but predictable so far for Southern Virginia today.
That's been popped up on the bunt attempt. There was some confusion between catcher Orndorff and the coach on the first base line, trying to communicate what type of pitch to throw, and made the very clear, "I don't know what you're talking about" symbol. That pitch high to the outside, making it a 1-2 count. Here comes the pitch from Chiswick. And swinging low at that one. It was dropped. Are they going to say that it wasn't dropped by the catcher, and so it'll just be a strikeout. Now with DeGroot up to bat. We saw her for a brief amount of time in that first game. Now insert into the lineup here in the second. So 2 outs now. Still have Persinger at first.
Yeah, a couple of freshmen that the Knights are showcasing in the batting order. We saw, as Dawson, you mentioned, DeGroot was a pinch hitter in the first game. I think it was in the 6th inning, and then we saw Abby Southern get on the bases in place of Anderson, I believe, when she got hurt at second base. So 2 freshmen that hopefully will be a key part in the rotation for Southern Virginia this year.
So now a 2-0 count. And again, it's kind of a pattern at Southern Virginia. You have to kind of rely a lot on freshman athletes, as due to the turnover that we discuss in these broadcasts a lot, especially at these Division III schools. So you have to rely on these younger athletes, and they're kind of expected to grow up a little bit more as athletes. And a hit in the outfield here, solid hit, in Southern Virginia will have a run scored here. That's Persinger able to slide into home, and DeGroot tempting the idea of trying to go home as well, but she will settle for a triple. I say that as if it's a bad thing. It was a fantastic hit from DeGroot, able to get an RBI there and give the Knights their first lead in this doubleheader.
Yeah, that's a huge hit. That kind of, hopefully opens up the floodgates for Southern Virginia. Hadn't had anything close to that in the first game, and here early in the second, and no better way to do it for a freshman.
Absolutely. We have Nelson now up to bat. Still 2 outs here at the bottom of the second. Another bunt, this time from Nelson. And they're going to say that she is out by a hair. It looked very, very close. But the Royals able to get the third out and limit the damage to just 1 run given up to Southern Virginia. But again, if you're the Knights, like you said, it's been tough going offensively and getting people on base and getting runs scored. And so getting that 1 run, that's a huge victory. And so now you hope that that fuels them to, execute well in the infield and make plays and make sure they can get back to the dugout and get some more chance to put the bat on the ball.
Yeah, it puts them in an excellent spot going forward in the second game, giving yourself a lead in a pretty tight defensive battle, and allowing your leading pitcher in the circle to protect it.
Indeed, we now have Young, who will be up to bat for the Royals. But during this break, I want to once again remind you, you're watching this on Knights Broadcasting here on YouTube. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe, comment down below your highlight of the game so far and your highlight of the doubleheader so far, as well as ways we can improve this viewing presentation of Southern Virginia athletics. We appreciate your support and your feedback. And so again, Southern Virginia looking to capitalize off that 1 run scored by Persinger. And so far, the Knights have done a much better job at, pitching, of course, has been slightly improved in the second game. I mean, Persinger did a pretty good job in there, as well as, the Knights able to get a lot of things done later in that first game. But now they're starting off stronger defensively, and they're making it really difficult for Eastern Mennonite to really get that rhythm going that they had in the first.
And to put in perspective, since again this is opening day for Knights softball here at Harvey Dryden Field, to put it in perspective, how much of an improved season the Knights had last year, and what they're expecting now from their program each season is, they played Pfeiffer in the first round of the USA South tournament. A good play there by Ari Hall again. They played Pfeiffer in the first round and lost just 5-2. So played pretty well defensively against one of the top teams in the country. They were ranked nationally at the time. And then since it was a double elimination tournament, they played Meredith in that second game, lost 6-5. Meredith also received a first place vote in the preseason poll in the USA South. So facing off against 2 of the better teams in the conference in the tournament last year and losing by just 3 and 1 runs. Really solid season last year. And the Knights are going to do their best to match that and hopefully do better with their group that lost some core players but returned some depth.
And that word you just used, solid, is a great way to describe the past 2 plays for Southern Virginia's infield. Can we see back-to-back-to-back great infield plays? Indeed, we do. So 3 batters, 3 outs. The Knights doing a great job starting off with Ari Hall. Great fielding work. Then you had DeKello Jones able to make a good catch in the infield. And then the Knights able to close it out with a good throw from third to first. So again, the Knights doing a great job at limiting Eastern Mennonite's offensive production in the second game. The Royals getting a little bit frustrated there. Now the Knights have a chance to add on to this 1-0 lead.
And that's pretty much, picture perfect top of the inning for Southern Virginia, wanting to keep Ari Hall as fresh as possible so that she can make it through the entirety of the second game. Try and get the ball rolling for the Knights this year as they're still searching for their first win here in the second of this doubleheader.
And Chiswick will remain in the circle. Again, no surprise there. She's had a fantastic day so far. She has yet to have an inning where she really gives up a lot to Southern Virginia. And again, it's just been very, very consistent. You mentioned, Quinn, earlier that she's pitched in 21 of their innings so far this year. And so, again, they're going to continue to ride the hot hand as they have been. And we will see Ari Hall up to bat. Get some contact on there. And it's going to be snagged before it falls foul. So quick out. Good job there from outfielder number 11. That's Atkins.
Ari Hall made contact a few times now, some pretty good contact. So you can tell she's just chomping at the bit right now to get on base and make an impact offensively for her team. But again, Chiswick up to, I think it's 110 pitches now in the day. Doesn't seem to be slowing down too much. Obviously gave away that big swing to the freshman to Groot in the last inning. But other than that, it's been just as strong as she was in the last game here early on.
Absolutely. And so we have DeKell Jones now to bat. The first pitch was a ball. No runners on base and 1 out. Some solid contact there. And a mistake in the infield once again leads to DeKell Jones getting a single. And I say mistake, that's a difficult play for number 17. That's Young to make. I mean, it was very close to the first base line. She was trying to sort of slightly dive for it and then trying to extend and able to flip it back to the first base after fumbling it for a second. But again, a tough play to try to make there.
But she knew she had her pitcher in the circle right behind the first baseman, so she was
right,
just going for broke there. But a good job by DeKell to hustle on the first.
Abby Southern with the bunt is safe at first. And DeKell Jones is going to advance to third. Great play there. I was sure that Abby Southern was dead to rights at first.
Well, and she was certainly safe because I think the first baseman came off the bag at first, which is why they motioned safe at first originally by that umpire there around between first and second base.
So now you have a runner on first and third with Katie Clater up to bat. So all of a sudden, things are really working for you if you're Southern Virginia and Eastern Mennonite. You kind of let a situation where you allow a single to become something a little bit worse. Now you have someone on third in scoring position, and so it'll be a little bit of a meeting here in the circle. I don't see them taking Chiswick out just yet, just because of the successful day that she has had. I mean, I feel like you'd have to have a couple more solid plays for Southern Virginia before you really start to consider that at this point. But just kind of trying to regroup, figure out what they can do in this situation, what plays in their playbook can they draw up to try to limit the damage as much as possible from this point.
Well, and the success that the Knights have had, swinging right now hasn't been from those, deep shots into the outfield. It's been, those plays into the dirt. So, again, like you said, Dawson, you can't really blame Chiswick too much. If they took her out now, I would question why they, left her in for the start of this game. So they're definitely going to ride her out here for at least a couple more innings. And if the reason, if they do take her out, it's certainly just to, save her arm for the future, not wear her down too much.
Indeed. Here's Clater trying to bunt it. And diving for that foul ball catch that time was number 3. That's Hensley. What a play there. Kind of surprising to see Clater go for a bunt in that situation, maybe just trying to, bunt in an RBI, which, you can definitely see the merit to that. But again, Eastern Mennonite starting to catch on to that.
And I think that was in foul territory, so I'm surprised that Abby Southern decided to go to second. And obviously, again, we don't have the angle that she does or Coach Mawson has over there at first.
Right.
But dangerous play to almost be caught at first for the double play.
Now we have Persinger up to bat with 2 outs now. He's going to pop it up. And that's going to be an easy catch there for Atkins. So the Knights had a prime opportunity to add more to their lead, not able to capitalize. And I guess whatever was said in that quick little meeting in the circle helped out the Royals because they were able to shut it down right quick. But that's another inning where the Knights, you had some opportunities and you like what you see as far as running the bases and getting some good bunts in there is concerned. Now just got to build more on that. So now we move on to the top of the 4th here at Harvey Dryden Field at the Fields of Southern Virginia. And so we'll continue to see Ari Hall in the circle for the Knights. And, I was going to make a point about, some of the mistakes we've seen from Eastern Mennonite's infield. When you have someone like Chiswick, who's been such a consistent pitcher all year long, there are games where she doesn't really allow contact to be made. by the batters. And so sometimes as an infielder, no matter how good you are, you can kind of get lulled into a false sense of security. And so sometimes things that actually happen kind of throw you off guard. You're not ready to make the play. But they definitely stepped up after having a runner go on first and third.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they push up a little bit on the infield there. It can kind of seem like they were sitting back for a little bit, which is why maybe they had difficulty grabbing those ground balls and sending them to first. Because obviously the Knights are really just going for those bunts and short balls to try and get on base.
And great infield work that time from DeKel Jones as Atkins hit it right to her. She's able to get it right to first. So a quick out now with Orndorff up to bat. Excuse me, this is Atkins. It was Chiswick who was thrown out at first. That first pitch was a ball. That one low to the outside, ball 2.
And it's good for the Knights that they've really shut down Chiswick offensively, as I think she started out with that double and brought home a run for her squad early on in game number 1. But since then, with the combination of Malia Davis and Ari Hall, she's really been shut down at the plate.
That one a little high, make it ball 3. But you're absolutely right. The Knights have done a good job adjusting to players who were really impactful in the first game. It's able to recognize, okay, this is someone that we need to be really careful about, and then making the necessary plays to keep them out of it. Foul ball there, make it 3-1.
But then again, I think the Royals only have, I think it's 4 total hits perhaps. I have to go back and look at game 1, but 4 total hits since Malia Davis came in. So they've really struggled to develop anything offensively. Hensley, their first team all-conference performer a year ago, has really been quiet since that pitching change from Malia Davis and now with Ari Hall.
And popped up into the infield. DeKel Jones able to bring that one down as well. So 2 outs here. No one on base. And we'll have Orndorff up to bat.
But someone who's really been able to stay hot at the plate is Orndorff so far. Homered in that last one, as you mentioned, then already got on base here in the second game.
Hit right to Hall, not able to field it. A rare mistake that we haven't really seen a whole lot of in this game. And so single there for Orndorff, and her successful day continues. Now we'll see Fravel up to bat. Hall was able to make a play very similar to that one in the previous inning and able to throw it out at first. That ball is a little bit further to the outside, so went out off the tip of her glove. That'll be a strike, a little high to the outside, but still in the zone.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out, you know, obviously different batters coming in and out, but you know, that one seemed a little high, but good enough for the umpire on that one.
Popped up into left field. And a catch that time for Abby Southern. So once again, no runs allowed to the Royals of Eastern Mennonite in the top of the 4th as we move down to the bottom of the 4th. And that's continuing to play great defensively. And we'll see if the Knights are able to get something going offensively. They did in the previous inning have a run on first and third and got no runs out of it. We'll see if they're able to, you know, stretch that out a little bit more, get some more out of those opportunities, and hopefully extend their lead.
Well, and as we mentioned last year, lots of their success, you know, came off of generating momentum from their excellent defensive play. You know, that gives them the momentum needed to convert offensively at the plate. But you know, they won lots of their games by a pretty small margin because of their stellar defensive play, stellar pitching by Ari Hall so far, as well as the infielders and outfielders.
I mean, it's as the old saying goes, great defense leads to great offense. So, I mean, that's whether it be, you know, in basketball getting a steal and allowing an easy bucket for a layup, or, you know, getting a stop in a football game and that transitions to momentum for your offense. The point still stands, whatever sport you apply it to. And so we'll see if that continues to apply for Southern Virginia as we see Bedell up to bat, still going up against Chiswick.
Bedell struck out once last game, wasn't able to get on base, so certainly she is also chomping at the bit to grab one here for her team. And if you get, if you get another run scored here in this inning and hopefully 2, to extend that lead to 3, you're putting yourself in a really good spot to win this game and come out with your first victory on the season.
I mean, considering how overall defensive this doubleheader has been, the 5 runs in the previous game, I mean, in most games that's not necessarily insurmountable, but in that game it kind of felt like it was just because of how difficult it was to get anything going offensively. So like you said, a 3-run lead, that almost feels like a 50-point lead in football or basketball, That's going to be fouled out.
But again, you can see Chiswick, she's got the batters leaning, to the far side of the plate, expecting that outside pitch, but then she's bringing it back towards the middle and enforcing, Bedell a couple of pitches ago to check her swing. So she's really baiting the batters to go for that outside pitch, but then switching it up every once in a while, and that's what's given the batters difficulty for Southern Virginia.
And she tried to switch it up that time, but it got really low and close to home plate. Quick little halt and play is called. Just needing to retie her shoe, and we'll go back to play. That's why the good old double knot is so necessary.
It is. Sometimes the triple knot.
Yes. Triple knot getting fancy for your Quinn. Never.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had a problem with my shoes coming untied. I have lots of teammates who, not going to point fingers, but their shoes come untied in the middle of a run, a run or a workout. And I'm thinking, man, you guys not double knot or triple knot? I just never have that issue.
Like, well, hold on. Your sport is literally running. Shoes are your main gear that you need. On the day of softball, who knew we were going to be talking about specific knots for shoes? Here we go. Full count here. And that's hit up into the outfield. And that is just off the fence. Indeed, it was just off the top of it. Nearly a home run. And so Bedell will make her way to second. Fantastic work there to avoid the strikeout with a full count. And you know why she got that hit? I'm certain it's because she used the double knot.
She did. Maybe even a triple, who knows?
It fueled her to that powerful hit. Fantastic work there. All the credit to the equipment manager. So now up to bat is Christensen.
But how needed that was that for Southern Virginia? The only other hit that went that distance, went towards the fence, was DeGroot earlier in this game. So a really nice boost from the middle of the order for Southern Virginia.
Absolutely, you said it best. I mean, perfectly needed, and it really just adds a boost of morale to your dugout. And again, just showing, like, sometimes when you have a pitcher like Chiswick who's pitching such a great game, to have a hit like that just shows, oh, it is possible. I can get a good hit off this pitcher. So now with the 0-1 count here after the foul ball. Another bunt here. And out at first. And so now Bedell will be at third with 1 out. And now the Knights in ample scoring position here.
And again, here comes DeGroot, who had that big hit in the second inning to bring the first runner home.
Going right down the middle, allowing it to go by.
And again, this is where, good depth players comes into play, because, your heavy hitters of DeKel Jones and Katie Clitter have struggled to get by Chiswick here in these 2 games. You're relying on, a freshman like DeGroot and then Sophia Bedell stepping up and providing good offense for her team.
A foul ball down the third base line makes it an 0-2 count. Again, runner on third with just 1 out. So, I mean, not necessarily a ton of pressure on DeGroot here to bring this in, as you still have an out to give. But as they'll be meeting here in the infield with Chiswick. This is the second time they've done this. The first time was the previous inning, where right afterwards they're really able to shut things down and not allow a run scored in that inning.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go either way here. Obviously, we're in the bottom of the fourth, so getting in the second half of this second game, so you certainly want to, evaluate all your options and maybe rest the arm of Chiswick, or maybe keep her in for another inning and try to stay in this one for as long as you can.
I personally would think that they would let her finish off this inning, and then the next inning put in whichever pitcher they think would be able to close out best, find your best closer or second best closer, whichever the case may be. Now 0-2 count here for DeGroot. That one just to the outside, making a 1-2 count. Good swing there. Good field work, though. Going to get out at home. Good decision making there to prevent Bedell from getting another run on the board. They do allow the single for DeGroot, but again, pick the lesser two evils, and of course, giving up a run is, the greater of the two evils.
You can see how far up the third baseman of Eastern Mennonite is playing. As we talked about last inning, the Knights batters have not been able to get anything, towards the fence on Chiswick, but have found success with the bunt or those short grounders just like that.
And safe at first, and advances DeGroot to second and on to third. So just like that, the Knights are right back where they were just a couple of batters ago, but now with 2 outs and Nelson up to bat. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here, because again, when they have someone at third, they're bringing that third baseman like you just mentioned, that being Fravel, up closer towards the batter's box. And so a bunt isn't necessarily probably not going to work here unless you really place it perfectly.
And that's the second consecutive time they've used Chloe Nelson and her speed to get on base and advance the runner. Nice strike there. Oh, just foul.
Yeah, so out just past the third base line, foul ball. But a good swing nonetheless, make it a 0-1 count off the foul ball. That one a little bit low, but it'll be a strike, and Nelson will, it'll be indeed Nelson advancing to second. This is Hall up to bat. So now runners on second and third. Nice strike to the infield there. They're going to get the out at first. And so that's out number 3. So once again, the Royals give up base runners and have someone on third base twice, but don't allow a run to be scored in the bottom of that 4th inning. So great work once again by the Royals of Eastern Mennonite.
Yeah, again, great recovery by them. But if you're Southern Virginia, you got to, that's promising for your offense. Each inning it seems like they're getting more and more runners on base and extending those innings to maybe tire out the arm of Chiswick. So really promising inning there for Southern Virginia.
Now the thing about that, though, is that if you're Southern Virginia, it could be very easy to get frustrated as well, because you make some really great plays like that, very deep hit there from Bedell, and then not able to come away with anything. So the main point is to maintain composure and kind of think how you just exactly said. Recognize, hey, we're making plays, we're putting ourselves in positions to increase the lead. Let's just make sure that we continue to build on that and continue to build and not allow that to frustrate us to the point where we start making simple mistakes that prevent us from getting a victory here in the second half of this doubleheader.
Because then also, those mental mistakes, carry into the defensive side of things.
Yeah.
Which obviously you've played excellent, especially the last 2 innings. I think it's been 3 up, 3 gone, or pretty close to that for the last 2 or 3 innings for Southern Virginia. So I want to maintain focus and preserve this lead.
Indeed, here in the top of the 5th, the Knights looking to defend and still trying to find that first win of the year. The Royals were able to do so in that first game, moving on to 1-3. The Knights still 0-3. So we'll see if the Knights are able to return the favor. But now up to bat for the Royals is Umberger. That one a tad high. So that'll be called a ball. That one more in the lower area, but that's also a ball. That one right down the middle. It seemed like it, but they're going to call that a ball as well, make it a 3-0 count.
Yeah, that's why I was saying in the previous inning that it's been pretty tough to read, or tough for Hall to find that strike zone, as there were two pitches just now pretty up high that I think the last inning was called a strike, with the same batter actually, I think, or maybe it was 2 innings ago. But it's been pretty tough to read. There's another pop-up.
And brought down by Katie Clater. So after a frustrating string of pitches for Ari Hall, they're able to come away with the out there. And now they'll have Edens up to bat.
And those are the ones where you just really, need to battle through and shake it off, and hopefully it turns out good, which it does for Ari Hall in that situation. But again, as you said, Dawson, easy to get frustrated with things like that. You played a really excellent second game so far on both sides, just not able to come away with the points, and that's in the bottom of the inning, and then playing really good defense, and almost it doesn't go your way there.
I actually need to correct myself. It is Braxton Jones up to bat for the Royals. Will be batting in place of Edens. The first pitch is a ball. That one a nice pitch down the middle. Strike there for Ari Hall. Make it a 1-1 count.
She's definitely trying to find that sweet spot in the top of the strike zone. Hasn't been too kind to her so far, but that one dropped in.
That one dropped in nicely as well. Make it 1-2. That's going to be popped up in the infield, brought down by Dekel Jones. That's out number 2. Dekel Jones has been busy today. She's gotten a couple of catches in the infield and been able to make a lot of great plays.
And which ideally I think the Royals would, if they've done their scouting, wouldn't want to be hitting that way, but obviously you can't help it sometimes. But Dekel, she's been very steady in that same position for the past couple of years for Southern Virginia.
Another strike there for Hall.
Good speed, good athleticism. We've seen her make quite a few acrobatic plays over to first base in her time here.
That one a little to the outside. Make the count 1-1. Ari Hall now at over 50 pitches in the game. That's going to be popped up for a foul ball. Make it 1-2.
And just 3 hits on Ari Hall so far, so a pretty similar stat line to what Chiswick had in that
Right.
first game. Really stellar pitching from Hall.
Looking to get the third strike here and go to the bottom of the 5th. And that's popped up in the foul ball area there and brought down and leaning backward for the catch that time for Southern Virginia was Christensen. Sometimes you kind of run underneath a little too far and you have to lean back, and that's what happened to Christensen, was still able to focus and bring it down.
There's a couple of times that the catchers of Southern Virginia, it was Christensen there, and then first I think Bedell in the first game made a really couple of really nice reads. as it kind of hung along the fence there behind home plate.
So now we go to the bottom of the 5th. The Knights once again do not give up a run and maintain their 1-0 lead over the Royals of Eastern Mennonite. And so we'll see if they can continue to build upon their offensive success they've had the past couple of innings and capitalize on getting runners on base and hopefully extend their lead. And Chiswick will be going to go up against DeKel Jones.
Leading off the inning for the Knights, number 20.
Jones so far has 1 hit. Hasn't been able to get home yet today. Swinging at that one, foul ball.
And even though she does have a couple of hits on the day, you can certainly tell that she's wanting to make more of an impact. I think both her hits were her grounders towards first, and she was a little bit fortunate to get there due to a couple of errors on the infield from the Royals.
Good swing at that. It's going to get past, or actually going to be picked up by Jones in the infield. Great work there, getting that grounder.
Yeah, really nice scoop on that one.
And out at first. So now we'll have Abby Southern up to bat. Abby Southern hasn't really been able to find any success at bats so far. And we'll have Katie Clater on deck. Right down the middle for Chiswick.
Chiswick up to, I think it's 133 pitches on the day. So definitely doing the job so far for Eastern Mennonite, keeping them in there in game number 2.
Popped up into the outfield. Good catch there for Edens. So 2 quick outs here in the bottom of the 5th.
Now at the plate, number 5.
And this is a moment where you want to see someone like Katie Clare, who's got, got the power to really send this one over the fence and make a quick impact and get some more momentum in the Knights' favor.
That's going to be a foul ball just outside the fence. So spectators having a little bit of fun with that foul ball. That foul ball makes it a 0-1 count. Again, 2 outs, no one on base. That one's just a tad high. As we popped him to the outfield once again, this time left field. And an easy catch there for Umberger. So that's 3 quick outs here in the bottom of the 5th as we move to the top of the 6th. It continues to be a defensive standoff between the Royals and Knights, making it a much quicker game than the first one was. And the first one felt pretty fast.
Which is honestly a complete switch from how last year went. Last year was fairly high scoring. As previously mentioned, Southern Virginia took both games. The first one 14-6, and then the second one ended in just 5 innings. The Knights taking that one 10-1. So, yeah, very quality pitching. Obviously a battle here between Hall and Chiswick. And so far, Hall's won the battle. And let's hope she can keep it going for another couple of innings.
Absolutely. And as we move to the top of the 6th, we want to once again remind you you're watching this on Knights Broadcasting here on YouTube. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe, comment down below what your highlight of this doubleheader has been so far and ways we can improve this viewing presentation of Southern Virginia athletics. We appreciate your support of Knights Broadcasting. as well as your feedback. Now it's up to bat for the Royals is Jones. Like we've talked about her, she had a home run in that first game and made a lot of great plays in the infield at second base. We'll see if she can get the ball rolling, so to speak, for the Royals.
Again, going through that dangerous part of the batting order for the Royals, though. Again, Ari Hall has kept them very quiet. Them being Jones, Hensley, and Chiswick, all without a hit so far in the second game.
We popped up, and it's fair. So a single for Jones, just barely inside the first base line. I mean, if you're Eastern Mennonite, that's a good way to start if you're trying to form a comeback here.
Yeah, those are kind of the dirty, ugly hits that just happen to drop right behind the first baseman that are gonna vault you to a potential tying run and maybe the lead for the Royals.
That one a little inside. Make it ball one. Nice slamming hit there, but that's going to be a foul ball. A lot of power behind it. Would have been very difficult for Southern Virginia to manage had it stayed in. And that's going to pop straight up into the infield. Once again, DeKel Jones able to bring it down. Now one out, still a runner on first. And that was Hensley who hit that one, and then you have Chiswick up to bat now. That one a little bit low. Make it 1-0. As we popped up into center field again. Gonna hit the fence.
Jones looking to go home.
Indeed she is. And she'll get there. They're gonna call her safe at second. That's Chiswick. A little slow to get up after the slide. But just like that, Eastern Mennonite able to tie things up at 1 run apiece.
And I think that throw to second was closer than we thought because it looked like the feet of Chiswick were up in the air and DeKel Jones almost tagged her feet before she got her hands on the plate. But that's just what Eastern Mennonite needed from their heavy hitters to get on the board first.
Absolutely, and the umpire, you talk about it being so close. The umpire really hesitated for a couple of seconds there to make that call just to make sure that they made the right one. It looks like Chiswick will have someone run in her place.
Morris, 15, I believe.
Indeed, she slightly limped as she got off the field. Again, I do believe it was an awkward slide to second that maybe caused that. Second time we've seen a player in this game have an awkward slide to second that resulted in them slightly at least limping off the field. A swing and a miss there. So now that 1 run changes the whole dynamic of the game if you're Southern Virginia. For the past couple innings, it's like, yeah, we'd like to get more people a bat at home or whatnot, but we're playing really good defense, so we can just kind of ride that. But now it's tied up. Now you're forced to make something happen offensively. Two-1 is the count now. As we hit into the outfield, just short of the outfield, and advances. That advances Morris to third. Now is Atkins able to get that solid strike there.
That's a couple of tough moments there, throwing over to third base and before throwing to home. throws are just a bit too high for the receiver to get that tag on the base runner.
And now it's Orndorff up to bat. So once again, now you have runners on first and third, and just one out. As we hit into the outfield again. And it's a home run. A 3-run homer, and just like that, the Royals of Eastern Mennonite have a 4-1 lead. And again, the whole dynamic of the game changes in just a couple of plays. The Knights were looking to ride it out in a defensive struggle, but then the Royals in this 6th inning basically said, no thanks.
Yeah, and they were just able to dig deep in those at-bats. Obviously, I don't think Ari Hall is, much fatigued, but they will be making a switch here. Perhaps. She's headed towards the dugout, I think, but those are just good reads by Eastern Mennonite and learning from their previous at-bats with Hall. But the good thing here for the Knights is, being the batting in the bottom of the innings, they do have a couple more chances to try and knot things up here, but it puts them in a tough spot here. This was the kind of inning they were trying their best to stave off, as I think that's Maddie Lloyd perhaps coming in to pitch now.
Indeed, that's correct. The senior Maddie Lloyd from Richfield, Utah, will close out this one more than likely for the Knights of Southern Virginia. And like you said, Ari Hall before that inning had a really solid game, was really difficult for Eastern Mennonite to read, but then all of a sudden things just started to, kind of come together for the Royals. And it's unfortunate, too, because, again, the Knights had control for the first 5 innings of this game. I mean, they had maintained control defensively. They had the one lone run. And, again, it just kind of goes back to what we talked about in the first game. It just takes one inning or one half an inning for an entire game to change, and that's exactly what's happened here.
Exactly, because leading from the first game, you played maybe 7 really quality innings, where you were the better team offensively and defensively, but it's just those 2 or 3 innings that Eastern Mennonite has really been able to explode at the plate and convert, that into 9 runs right now. So, but if the Knights, you really need need their players to produce offensively right now.
That's going to be a catch out there from Bedell. Get the second out. And it almost kind of mirrors the game that Southern Virginia had against Shenandoah, where they had a lead going into the later innings, and all of a sudden a flood of scoring for Shenandoah allows them to come away with what seems like a sizable victory, even though Southern Virginia maintained control for most of it.
Exactly. It's basically a mirror image of what happened, especially in that second game against Shenandoah, where it was knotted at 1 through, I think, 5 innings. Then they exploded for 8 runs. So some good softball being played by the Knights early on in the season, but it's just those couple of innings that they got to stay focused and prevent those big plays.
And the count is now 1-1. That one just a tad high, making it 2-1. That's going to hit toward first base, and that'll make it an easy third out as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Now in this situation, again, you go into the dugout in a completely different game than you did coming out of it. And we talked about a couple of innings where Southern Virginia has a lot of opportunities. They have people on third base multiple times in some innings. And now at this point, down by 3, you have no choice. You have to make sure you capitalize on those, and you can't just say, well, it's a good thing we can build on when there's only an inning and a half left. There's only so much time that you have to actually take advantage of that now. And we'll see Chiswick once again. And it does indeed look like that she will close out both of these games. And again, an impressive day where her pitch count, I think like you said, was around 140 on the day or something to that degree. And we'll see Chloe Persinger up to bat for Southern Virginia.
I think Persinger was able to get on base threw a bunt in her last at-bat. So she certainly had a busy day after starting the first game in the circle for the Knights.
As we popped up in the infield, easy catch there for Young. And again, outside of that one strike to center field from Bedell, it's just been really difficult for the Knights to get a solid swing that didn't result in either being popped up or a foul ball. So like you said, they resorted to bunting quite a bit, and once Eastern Mennonite kind of got the hang of being able to cover those, it's been a lot more difficult for the Knights to do really anything.
I suppose the Royals aren't afraid to keep Chiswick in there for the entirety of both games. I mean, they got a few days off until their next tournament, which is in Raleigh, Grand Slam Triangle Classic. So certainly letting her just ride it out and try to secure another victory here.
And the count is 1-1. Really late decision to swing at that one. You can literally see her looking at it and thinking, should I swing at this last second, deciding yes.
And it's just another example of, Chiswick really being able to confuse the batters and, forcing them to a check swing, but then, rethinking that decision a split second later, making it really difficult to get any good contact on these balls.
A low pitch there, making it a 2-2 count. Good swing there, but it's a foul ball once again. Another late swing, but that's going to make contact. And out at first, so close that time, but it'll be out number 2 here in the bottom of the 6th. Good work there from Jones. Able to scoop it up and get a quick throw to first. So now we'll see Christensen up to bat.
Infielders of Eastern Mennonite have really cleaned things up here in this second half of game number 2 we mentioned.
Yeah.
In the first game, and then early on in the second, lots of errors for them, but they certainly improved on that, and it's given Southern Virginia, again, difficulty to get on base.
And I failed to mention that was Bedell who was at bat last time for Southern Virginia, now being Christensen. I believe that first pitch was a ball. Maybe a foul ball there, make it a 1-1 count.
And Christensen, again, another player that really has the potential to rifle at the distance, so wouldn't be any better time than for her to get her first home run of the year to put them back in it.
High release there from Chiswick is going to make it a 2-1 count. Popped up, a lot of power behind it. And in left field, it's going to be caught by number 18, that's Umberger again. So now it's the top of the 7th. The Royals now basically at this point just trying to pad their lead, and then you get back defensively, just try to hold on to it. And we'll see Lloyd come back out into the circle for Southern Virginia. And again, it all goes back to what you said earlier, Quinn, is that most of the innings in these 2 games, this doubleheader, have been just really defensive, great work from the pitchers and the infielders. There's just been small spurts where things just kind of just happen, especially for Eastern Mennonite, whether it be in the first game when I believe it was the third or fourth, I believe it was the fourth inning where they scored 3 runs. And, of course, the previous inning where Eastern Mennonite was able to score all 4 of their runs in this one. And so, again, just goes back down to a couple of those plays where things just don't go right for you. And now you're kind of forced to play catch-up all of a sudden.
And that's the tough thing about softball, I feel like, is just, you could play so well for 95% of the game, and then, 2 pitches could turn into 4 or 5 points, as did in the top of the 6th for Southern Virginia. So, and as you've mentioned previously, it's tough to not get frustrated when that happens, as well as Ari Hall was pitching. If you're in the dugout of Southern Virginia, you can think, man, like, what do we have to do to, get on the board or stave these guys off? So it's a tough moment, but certainly these early season games, non-conference matchups, it's better for this to happen now than later.
Right.
And you can learn from it and be a better closer when it counts.
Right down the middle in that time for Lloyd, making it strike 1. A foul ball there, make it 0-2.
And Lloyd, she appeared a few times last season for the Knights in the circle. One of the 5 or 6 players in their dugout that will most certainly use this season. Going for more of a good grab there.
That was Clater able to recover that one, able to get the out at first. What a throw from Clater. That that got DeGroot fired up at first.
As I was saying, going for more depth in the circle rather than just, loading up the 2 pitchers as they did last year in Hall and Kemp. Hall obviously will be spearheading that pitching effort this season.
And that pitch just a little low from Lloyd, making it ball 1. That'll be hit toward first for another quick out. Make it 2 outs now. And that was Young with the hit, and this is Jones now at bat. That pitch really releasing awkwardly for Lloyd. Falls very short and very much inside. We mentioned how Jones for Eastern Mennonite had a home run the first game. It hasn't really been able to do a whole lot more in this second one. She has scored 1 run. So it's not like her productivity has dropped off in any way, but less emphatic. They're going to throw it to first, and it's safe. No solid play there for Jones.
Yeah, Bedell was a little slow getting to that one as it rolled along the foul line. Just in that sweet spot where she couldn't get there in time and slid over to first.
And also you're kind of thinking, oh, it's going to go over and, past the foul line and cause a little bit of hesitancy there. Now you have Hensley up to bat. Here's to the kill. Jones. She's going to hand off to second base, and that's a 3rd out there as we go to the bottom of the 7th. The Royals still leading 4-1 over the Knights of Southern Virginia. And we'll see if the Knights can have one last gasp at either tying it up or getting a victory here at home.
Yeah, it's the time where they could use a big spurt in offense, just as the Royals have. That's where 90% of their points have come from just 2 innings. So it's certainly possible, and the Knights have the firepower to do it. They just got to make some good contact and get that thing over the fence once or twice.
Yeah, and you have DeGroot up to bat, who made some solid contact a couple innings ago. And then from there, you have a couple batters until you get back to the top of your batting order. So, I mean, much similar to, I think it was one or two instances in the first game, you're in a similar situation where, you know, you can get something rolling. I mean, again, we've talked about how getting 3 runs is not necessarily an insurmountable task. I mean, with how defensive it's been today, it's kind of felt like that. But you are in prime position to where if you want to make a run at tying it up or getting a lead, you can. Like you said, it's just a matter of execution, running the bases well, make some solid contact, and if you do have to resort to bunting, just bunting in the perfect places to, you know, help your cause. A swing there. Good stop and
Good
out
snag.
at first. That's Young once again putting in good work.
Now batting number 3.
So that quick out will definitely hurt the Knights' cause as you have Nelson up to bat.
Yeah, I don't think any Knight has gotten more than a hit in each game so far. So DeGreed or I guess Nelson now is looking to be the first one to have 2 hits on the day.
Another bunt here. And they get it to first, and it's called safe. Nelson able to get there in just the nick of time. So now the Knights have a runner on base with Ari Hall up to bat.
Nelson really being able to kind of perfect that bunt right there, right in the sweet spot, just as she did last time. And it's worked twice for her now.
A little communication happening here in the infield. I actually believe it's a conversation between Eastern Mennonite coach and the umpire on that other side. So now we'll have a meeting of the umpires. I think they're trying to determine if the call will end up standing as out at first. First baseman Hansley, I believe, is pretty convinced that it was out. So they're going to maintain the call as safe. I mean, because at this point, like, you don't really have instant replay to go in and change the call. It wasn't a blatant safe or out. I mean, it was very, very close. So I mean, at that point, you kind of just have to stick to your guns.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. There wasn't enough evidence to overturn it. And if the umpire behind the plate, you know, didn't see anything that would change his mind, you certainly cannot reverse that.
Solid contact here. And it ended up squeaking into the outfield. I think it deflected.
She tried to scoop it to second, it looked like, but you know, I guess there was interference, but it was accidental interference, and so second baseman Jones wasn't able to get a mitt on it, and it spit it out back into the outfield.
So now you have runners on second and third, and another meeting in the infield for Eastern Mennonite. You have Nelson at third and Hall at second, with DeKel Jones up to bat. So again, that very ideal situation for Southern Virginia. I mean, DeKel hasn't really been able to have a whole lot of success today as compared to what she's used to.
Yes.
But still very much someone who's capable of making this play happen. I mean, you have 2 runners and you have yourself, and then following you is Abby Southern. I mean, again, prime opportunity here to make something happen.
Yeah, you have your big guns here at the top of the order, so good spot for Southern Virginia to be in. If you're Eastern Mennonite, you maybe wanted, you know, that play to be just sent to first. I know she was leaning in the direction of second. She was right there, so could have made the play, but a miscue turns into a runner in scoring position now. So a tough play there. It's a tough moment, tough decision to make. You know, I can't blame her for making that decision to scoop it to second, but it works in the Knights' favor.
A low pitch there from Chiswick. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that it feels like each and every time that the Royals have decided to huddle together in the infield and kind of discuss what's going on, they've been able to really turn things around on a dime, it seems. So we'll see if that pattern continues here as they try to keep Southern Virginia from forming a comeback. High pitch there from Chiswick. And a good job there from Orndorff to not let it get past her. Again, you have a runner on third. That could have been disastrous.
She's had a stellar game, 3 for 3 in this game, played pretty well in the first one as well. And there's been a couple of times, you know, once in the first game, and then once here, that she's prevented those wild pitches from going behind the plate and maybe allowing Chloe Nelson there to get to the plate for another score.
And that's going to be popped right up and brought down by Orndorff. So now 2 outs here. again, it's like the Knights really haven't been able to get any consistent contact except for foul balls and popping it straight up into the air, and that's incredibly frustrating for some of your top batters like DeKel Jones is. Now we have Abby Southern up to bat.
A good experience for Abby Southern. Game's on her right now. She either puts her runner into home plate or she gets out, so a good experience for the freshman.
Low pitch there from Chiswick. And at this point, Chiswick just trying to avoid having any pitch right in that sweet spot where the hitters like it to be. She's trying to keep it low or to the outside, just trying to prevent anything from happening that could jeopardize this game. Able to make some contact there for foul ball, make it 1-1. Once again, you have Nelson at third and Hall at second. Some more contact there. That's a foul ball. Some more contact there, popped up. That'll be another foul ball. More contact here. Should be an easy play at first, and that will do it. The Royals able to win both games in this doubleheader against your Knights of Southern Virginia. The Knights able to make some plays to keep themselves in it for the majority of both games, but not able to capitalize on opportunities, and the Knights will fall to 0-4 in the early goings this season, and the Royals would advance to 2-3. And again, at the end of the day, well fought, very defensive doubleheader here at the fields of Southern Virginia. But like you kept mentioning, Quinn, the Royals had to make those extra plays that they needed to come out with the wins.
Yeah, and Coach Pendleton mentioned that offense was their focus. They need to do a better job at the plate, and that's exactly, how this one went.
Yeah.
Played pretty stellar defense for, 12 of those 14 innings, with the exception of those 2 innings where they allowed about 9 runs combined. But they just couldn't manage anything against Chiswick, and all the credit to her, pitching over 150 times and really not allowing, the big guns of Southern Virginia anything at all, with the exception of those 2 hits from Bedell, and I think it was DeGroot. So lots to improve on, and it goes right along the lines with what Coach Pendleton said their focus would be throughout the season, improving at the plate.
Absolutely, and with that, the Knights will have another doubleheader here at home on Saturday against Guilford, and so they'll be right here on Knights Broadcasting. Be sure to not miss out on that. And once again, I'm Dawson Weidrich alongside Quinn Meyer. This has been a fantastic doubleheader here on Knights Broadcasting. Thank you so much for tuning in, and go Knights.